From fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada, this is Pod Therapy. Real people, real problems, and real therapists. You can go and submit your questions anonymously at podtherapy.net or email us at podtherapyguys@gmail.com. If you enjoy hearing two therapists share their worthless opinions about things not related to therapy, please go check out our Patreon. And now, broadcasting from the churn, that guy is Dr. Jim Jobin. I'm Nick Tangeman. It's time for some
The
Pod Therapy.
Patreon is rich with content that has nothing to do with anything. But actually, my angry rant was very mental health focused. It's not like me sitting around speculating about something that I can't speculate about. It was relevant.
I'm just going to go ahead, having not read it at all, I'm just going to disagree with that. I'm just going to bet. I'm just going to hedge on this and guess that it was.
I'll guess that your heart was in the right place when you started.
Yes.
And then it went off the rails.
Oh, it did. No, it absolutely did. Yeah. My angry recorded hour-long rant that was posted to Patreon this same week was just anger, just a lot of swears, just potty mouth Jim, just being angry at something that really bothered me, and has now ascended into a Twitter beef as well. And so that's happening. But yeah,
I'm honestly surprised that you haven't actually put out an episode on Patreon just to bash Grubhub.
Oh my God!
I really thought
you're wrong. I want Grubhub to sponsor the show. It's DoorDash. DoorDash and
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh,
we
my
have
apologies.
bad blood. Yeah, we have bad blood.
Don't be ridiculous, Nick.
Yeah, jeez. I'll see myself out.
Yeah, do not sully the good name of Grubhub. We would love to be sponsored by Grubhub. But no, DoorDash, you can go to hell. Even though I ordered from them last night. So I have a very weird relationship with DoorDash.
Yeah, I know.
I agree.
You keep doing it.
I know. I can't quit them.
That's what... Oh, every time. And then you tweet. It doesn't work out. Then you tweet. And then you're just like, of course it didn't. Like, the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior.
I know. That's the problem. It'll be like every fifth order. Like, it'll be fine, and then all of a sudden a fifth order will come, and it'll be garbage, and I'll be, like, really mad at them.
You know what? Is your entire issue with Grubhub... Wait, Grubhub? Postmates? What are we talking about? DoorDash. Great. I definitely listen. Is your entire issue with them is that they occasionally get orders wrong?
They don't deliver on time, and then you can't, like, back out of it, and sometimes they're never going to show up.
Here's what I do. There's an easy solution.
You understand that you're ordering from one of these things?
No. Here's an easy solution, and it happened last night. We decided that we were going to do Thai food because we haven't had Thai food in a long time. Uh-huh. So I ordered from a Thai food place, and then I got in my car, and I went and I picked it up, and then I brought it home.
No.
Yeah.
Boom.
No.
Perfect.
Not doing that.
Perfect.
No. It's 2021. They need to bring it to me. That's why the app exists.
I forget you've cinder blocked your door shut.
That's right. No, there's no leaving the house, Nick. What are you talking about? I don't walk out of that door.
If you use one of these services, you don't get to be angry when the thing is wrong.
I do get to be angry, and I am angry. And DoorDash charges an extra $2 just because you live in Clark County.
You mean
ridiculous?
You mean they're gonna make a profit?
No, they're already making a profit. They're ridiculous. Don't get me started.
I think these services are ridiculous and stupid, and that you shouldn't use them. I think that they hurt restaurants, especially like local restaurants and things like that. But if you use them, you don't get to be angry that the service isn't that great.
I am the customer. Why? That's bullshit. Like, what if you walk into a restaurant and you're like, well, this restaurant was terrible, but I did walk in here, so I don't have a right. Yes, you do. You're the customer.
If that restaurant is McDonald's, you don't get to be mad that the hamburger was shitty.
Yeah.
You need to have some kind of understanding of what you're walking into.
Yeah, there's a threshold at some point, which is what you signed up for. This is fair.
Yeah.
This is fucking Grubhub, Jim.
Yeah.
No, it's not. It's DoorDash.
Or whatever it is.
Grubhub, I like you guys. Sponsor the show.
I don't listen to what you say.
All right. Well, go to patreon.com/therapy to find out all about that and access some brand new content we're releasing at the beginning of every month. Long form interviews this month in February. This is the first episode of February, and along with it is going to be a long form interview with a London, England therapist, Sonal, and she was wonderful. And so you can go to patreon.com/therapy. Nick and I interviewed her for almost an hour, and it was really, really cool, and she was a lot of fun. and easily could replace us on this show. Like, I would just listen to her. I think that we should just hand her the show because she was fantastic.
Let's hold on. I think she could be added. I don't think there's a replacing.
No, I'm in favor of replacing.
I vote replace. So check that out. Go to patreon.com/therapy. And also, since I'm plugging things, don't forget to go to the Pod Therapy gift shop, podtherapy.net. And then
Pod Therapy
the
bait and tackle.
Bait and tackle.
Pod Therapy bait and tackle. Live bait, shirts, we have the stuff you're looking for. So don't forget to go check that out. Patreon, podtherapy.net. First letter.
It's Grubhub.
First letter that we've got is about being a best friend and dating your best friend and experiencing depression. Hey guys, so my best friend, age 25, and I, age 30, have lived together since 1 month of our friendship. At some point, his toxic girlfriend moved in with us, but she moved out 3 to 4 months later when I had to tell him that she needed to pay rent or leave. For most of our relationship, there had been no feelings, but after they broke up, he and I did the whole friends with benefits thing until he got back together with his girlfriend a few months after the breakup. Eventually, I went through a major depression from psychological and verbal abuse from my dad while working with him. My best friend was there for all of it, and we grew super close. We started sleeping in the same bed, cuddling, having sex, etc., all while he was still dating the girlfriend. He had told me he loved me, but I kept finding ways to avoid dealing with those feelings. I would constantly tell him we would never work out because, 1, he had a girlfriend, 2, he wants kids and I don't, though now he says he's flexible on this, and 3, we are very different with our money management. I want to save and build credit, and he spends without thinking. He finally broke up with his girlfriend, but like a day later, he started dating an 18-year-old coworker who has a 2-year-old kid. I immediately became depressed again because I literally never saw him from that point on. He would be at her house until 4 a.m. and leave our house around 8 a.m. When he did see me, he wouldn't even say hi, usually just giving some excuse and leaving. Long story short, after some off and on with that girlfriend, I finally told him how I felt and we decided to date each other. After only a day, he started making excuses to avoid being near me, saying he was out with his grandmother, friends, or doing chores. I couldn't help but fear he was actually spending time with that 18-year-old ex-girlfriend, though he denies it. Today, we are still friends, but I'm not sure where this is going. I'm jealous and suspicious, and I'm creeped out that he dated a teenager. I'm also afraid of losing him because he is my best friend. I'm extremely sad about this and feel like I'm going crazy. What should I do? Anonymous.
First of all, I'm not laughing at you, Anonymous. I'm really not. This is not even a good friend. This is forget about romantic partner. This is not even a good friend.
Yeah.
This is a shitty friend.
Yeah.
On top of everything else, like before everything else, like this isn't your best friend. This is a shitty friend.
Yeah, and I guess my take on this too is looking at this, from the guy's perspective. What motivation does he have to change anything?
Yeah,
like, nothing. There's no motivation. Like because he's obviously he can hook up with the writer.
Right.
And that's not going to change, apparently. He's got a girlfriend, and so
which doesn't seem like it's going to change.
Right. That's not going to change. And there's no reason for anything to change, because he's getting what he wants.
Right.
I think for the writer, from the writer's perspective, I think you have to... This whole thing just kind of seems pretty toxic, and you need to define some boundaries and what exactly this relationship is and what it isn't. And set those boundaries, and if that means cutting boundaries, cutting ties, then you got to do that. But it's like you're torturing yourself. If you like this guy, but obviously, I mean, he slept with you while he was in a relationship, so there's going to be some trust issues. If he's going to do that
right
to that girlfriend, why wouldn't he do it to you? So that's going to be something to think about.
Spoiler, he definitely will.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's just... There's just a lot going on here. And this is the thing that happens sometimes too, when you have the whole friends with benefits thing, and then you try to make something else out of it than what it was before. And then not only that, but then you try to go back to what it was before and try to date other people. The whole thing just gets really messy.
Friends with benefits is great.
Yeah.
But like, that's probably where it's going to stay.
Exactly. I think once you've defined that relationship that way, it's hard to turn that to anything else.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if you shift into it, first of all, like I think neither of you can be in another relationship while it's going on.
Correct.
I'm thinking of ways that you can shift it into a relationship.
Yes. Okay.
So, like, I think when you're friends with benefits, you can't be in another relationship. Neither party can be in another relationship. It has to be just be open and honest, and that's fine. And because I do think that you can shift this. I think that a friends with benefits relationship can shift into a romantic relationship, monogamous or whatever kind of relationship you want to have.
Right.
Whatever honest relationship you want to have. But if you're starting off and there is part of this other thing that's going on that's already not being honest, then that honesty isn't going to just appear after it's already not there.
100%. I totally agree, because the foundation.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
If your foundation is solid, you can build off of it.
Right.
But the foundation right here on this one was never built on anything solid.
We don't usually like jump into just like straight up like I would do this type advice. I would bail on this completely.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Jim, what do you think?
So I think there's a couple of pieces of this that are really interesting, right? Like sometimes you read a letter, you're like, I have way more questions than answers. And like this is one of those. Because like the writer says, okay, I went through depression and this is my best friend, and so like they were there for me, and like that's very endearing, and I get it, like that would cause a bond, and like then you're kind of, you know, believing that you guys have a deeper connection. But also at some point the roommate, the guy in the scenario who's 25, he started confessing love and saying, I love you, I want to be with you, and the writer was saying no because you're in a relationship, because we want different things in life. Which is interesting, right?
Good instinct.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's just interesting that it's like they're sort of not on the same page, and the writer seemed to be saying they were sort of resisting the urge to talk about their feelings and trying to keep it casual. I almost think the writer, I don't know, like I want to be careful not to like somehow say that the writer was like a victim in all this in the beginning. It sounds like the writer was, this is what they wanted. This is what they were signing up for, that for whatever reason, they didn't want the big serious thing. They didn't have feelings for most of it. They said that in the letter. And this was exactly the right level of connection that they wanted. I'm sure they had made peace with it. It wasn't until later that the writer like started, I guess, having feelings and like, you know, went their own direction with it. And now things aren't working out. So I don't know. I just want to be careful not to like stereotype this into, oh, you were used. Like he's just, you know, like, I don't know. It seems like that's kind of what the writer was signing up for, or at least it seems
I don't think the writer was used. I just think that, yeah, I mean, I think the writer was in this with open eyes
right
at the beginning. Yeah, no, I agree with that.
And so it's hard to like know where to go with it, because I mean, now you're in this weird situation, I guess. And the other thing, writer, is I kind of, I mean, you're allowed to feel icky about, you know, a 25-year-old dating an 18-year-old. You're allowed. That's fine. But I guess I want to be careful with that, you know, because I want to be careful that.
Wait, the writer is 30 or the other party?
The writer is 30. The
writer is 30 and the other party is 25.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
And then the 25-year-old man started dating an 18-year-old girl. So, you know, you have a 7-year difference there, which, you know, isn't that big of a deal. If somebody was 20 dating a 27-year-old or 30 dating a 37-year-old, I don't think that, you know, it's a station of life thing to me. But I don't know. I mean, you're allowed to feel icky about it, writer. I'm not here to tell you what you should or shouldn't feel. It bothers you. It bothers you, I guess. And so even though that's an adult, I get it. You know, you're allowed to feel icky, and it sounds like that's a coworker, and now it's really hard to trust your roommate / best friend / semi-boyfriend, because he's literally going to work with his ex-girlfriend coworker all the time. So I kind of come back to, I think, what Nick was saying. The key ingredient here is going to be boundaries. And that may look like we shouldn't be living together. Like, we're playing house. We are mixing together romantic feelings, you know, friendly feelings. We're each other's therapists sometimes. And at some point, you have to ask yourself, is this putting me in a position to be devastated? And if it's putting me in a position to be routinely devastated and hurt, I think you need to start asking some hard questions about whether this living arrangement is like almost mimicking marriage or a monogamous, you know, kind of deep, intimate thing without the consistency of that, without the structure of that. And if maybe that's leaving you in a place where you're starting to get hurt. I mean, that's a hard question to ask, but you don't sound happy. You sound like you're hurting. I think that's a reasonable thing.
Well,
go ahead.
Well, I was going to say the other thing, I think kind of going along with that, I think a lot of this comes from when you've identified a relationship, but your expectations are not in line with that relationship.
Right.
Because even from like the way that the writer describes this, she describes this being a friendly relationship, but then there seems like a lot of jealousy when he is hanging around his girlfriend.
Right.
You know, when he's not spending time with her. And it almost seems like more than just jealousy that you would get if, I don't get to hang out with my friend because, my friend has a family or my friend has a girlfriend. Like, that's just kind of a normal thing that happens. All of my college buddies, whenever they got a girlfriend, we were just kind of like, okay, well, we don't get to see him anymore. He's gone.
Right.
We'll get to see him every once in a while, but we adjust our expectations. We know that we are not number one anymore, and that's fine. But when you hold on to that expectation, you're going to run into some problems. It's going to make it hard to identify and really define what that relationship is.
And all of these things are the reason that I say this person is a bad friend. Because this person has to recognize that this is happening in your life and in your mind, and they are continuing to pursue this other thing, whatever that thing may be.
Right.
And like this person does not seem like a person who is. They don't seem like a person who's looking for your best interest. It seems like they are being a little selfish, perhaps.
Right.
And again, I mean, out of one email, and so who knows what the reality is? But out of that email, that's my read on it.
Maybe, yeah. I guess my take on it, writer, is I'm reluctant to kind of speak to the boyfriend, friend, roommate guy as if he's good or bad or otherwise. And here's why. Let Jacob do it. That's fine.
Jacob, do you have an opinion on that?
Jacob's got it. So I don't need to take that position because Jacob's got it. But I think that good fences make for great neighbors. And so what happens in our relationships is when we have really poorly defined understanding of what we are, what our access to each other is, what our expectations of each other are, when we start fulfilling each other's emotional and physical and intimate needs, and the friendship bond starts to splash into the romantic bond, starts to splash into, all of this stuff. We have such poor definition that misunderstanding is almost guaranteed and hurt feelings are almost guaranteed. And when I see that setup, you are going to get hurt because there's no definition. Like even in the letter, it's like, we just randomly slept together this night, and then we started cuddling, even though we had a girlfriend. Like then I was depressed, like he was there for me, and like. It just seems like you guys don't have a stated understanding. So I would actually argue you're not friends with benefits. You're a relationship that is porous and ill-defined and open, which is fine, but open relationships are successful whenever they are defined. And I would say you're not even on one side of like the spectrum. I think you're on the other side. I think you mostly have all the qualities of a relationship that intermittently breaks up and doesn't have like official talks. Which is a dangerous recipe, writer. I just think if you don't have a boundary, and boundary doesn't mean get away from the person, boundary means understanding. The shortest definition of a boundary is teaching somebody where the door is. Like, you're welcome in my life, you have to walk through this door, this is the door of entry, and you can't just break through a window, you can't just hop through, the venting whenever you want to, you have to come through this door. And that door is a definition. You are my boyfriend, or you are my friend, and we have occasionally hooked up, but there is no other expectation of that. Is just physical. Once you get all these blurry lines, it gets really tough. So I would expect this to continue to happen, writer. In your letter, you say, why am I so sad? I feel like I'm going crazy? Yeah, that feeling of craziness is the lack of understanding and definition and what your expectations should be. And so long as that's the official way that this relationship works, you're not going to ever have peace or any kind of like real way to make this move forward. You're just going to keep getting hurt, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I think the lack of predictability in all of this, if you have poorly defined relationships and you have no predictability of what is going to happen next or what direction we're even going, that's not going to help depression and anxiety. That's only just going to make it worse.
Right. But great question, writer. And, again, I mean, if you wonder how do you establish boundaries, you sit down and you have kind of a come to Jesus talk. You sit down with the roommate and you say, let's discuss
Try
this.
to convert them.
That's how you do it. Anyway, let's jump to a break. Thanks for writing. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we are discussing how to confront a friend. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
Today's episode is brought to you by Elio Dare, Judy Schneider, Mason Miller, and Leon Kassab. This week's trivia theme in honor of our producers is Forrest Gump. The question is, who was the first president that Forrest got to meet? If you'd like to join the producers and make the show possible, go to patreon.com/therapy and sign up. Again, that's patreon.com/therapy.
I feel like he met a president when he was a kid.
First president he got to meet in person.
All right, I'm going
Kennedy?
with Nixon.
Okay, you're saying Nixon?
I'm saying Kennedy.
It was Kennedy.
Damn it.
Yeah.
The in-person thing was just to throw you off. It was, of course it's going to be in person.
Does he meet more than... So he meets Kennedy and also Nixon?
Kennedy when he's playing football, makes the All-American...
Because there's a picture with him, with there's like a black and white picture that just comes up with Kennedy or something, right?
No, he actually meets him because that's when he drinks all the Dr. Pepper and he had to pee.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And then Nixon was in the Medal of Honor, I think.
Was it?
Yeah. And
yeah,
then,
when he comes back from Nam.
Yeah, and then he met somebody playing ping pong. Who was the president he met for? Oh, it was...
Well, it'd have to be the next president, right? I mean, after Nixon, Ford?
Well, it was Ford. Gerald Ford. Did he meet Gerald Ford playing ping pong?
I don't know.
Maybe.
I'm going to go with yes. I
saw that movie a few years ago. I'd seen it when it came out. And I saw it again, I don't know, 1 or 2 years ago. Did not hold up.
You don't think so?
No.
Oh, I still love it.
No.
Every time it's on, I'll watch it.
No.
Oh, it's a beautiful movie. And speaking of which, when we get to the next Patreon for the next episode, I want to have a discussion about movies that make you cry. Because I watched a movie last night and I bawled my eyes out. And I want to see if you guys have similar such movies. But
was it Battlefield Earth?
I refuse to acknowledge that comment.
This is so bad.
Tears of joy. I wept tears of joy. All right, next letter. Confronting a friend. Hey, guys. I have a friend whom I've known for a couple of years now. We didn't get off to the greatest of starts, and things were pretty rocky for the first year. We've been relatively okay for a while now, but only because I've learned to pull back a little and avoid topics that attract negative reactions. Sometimes she makes me feel subhuman. If I need to talk about something, I always end up feeling worse about it. I feel judged and humiliated anytime I'm a little vulnerable with her, and she says it's because she's a hard ass and doesn't believe that my problems are as difficult as hers. I'm generally okay at expressing my feelings, but anytime I try to confront her, she makes me question myself and says that I have a selective memory, which impairs me from seeing what triggers her responses. Ooh, that's an interesting phrase. In the end, I feel obligated to apologize for my feelings. I've spoken to a few close friends about it, and they have been quite supportive, but I think it's only because they're looking at it through a myopic lens. If they heard her side of things, I think they would see that the matter differently. We're also work friends and work on a lot of projects together, so removing myself from her company isn't an option. I wanted to know how I could objectively evaluate this friendship and see if there is something that I sincerely need to work on. If not, I would love to know how I can create a healthy space between us without causing any rifts. This is where my question ends, but this is also a bit of a thank you note. Thank you, Jim, for your felicitous and uplifting spirit. Thank you, Nick, for your level-headedness and fatherly advice. Sorry, Jim. Fuck you. That is my brand. And thank you, Jacob, for never failing to make me laugh when I need it the most. I can't wait to learn, heal, and grow more with your podcast. Thanks again, Alex M.
That is awesome. Yeah, I do. I should write a book. I should write a book about fatherhood.
That'd be a good idea.
I think I should.
Maybe not just maybe don't just pigeonhole yourself into just fatherly stuff though.
You're right. You're right. I should just do a book on advice.
It's like an advice book.
Yeah.
Maybe even like advice that you might give to your son.
Yeah. It could all be hypothetical letters that I write to my hypothetical son. That'd be
nice.
Write letters to your dogs. That is a book I would read.
Don't try to shake me off of this.
All right. So to the writer, this one is a good one because there's a key phrase in there, and you heard me kind of stop and notice it. In the first paragraph of the letter, she said, "I'm okay with expressing my feelings, but she makes me question myself. She says I have a selective memory, and I'm not seeing what triggers her. And so I'm saying things that trigger her to be mean." And I guess this is a really difficult thing. It starts to play with this word gaslighting that is very
what I was
common.
Thinking.
Yeah, gaslighting is an interesting term. I'll let Nick unpack it because I kind of have trouble with the idea. But I do think that I use a phrase
have you not
called...
seen the movie? No, there's a movie called, I think it's just called The Gaslight.
Isn't that where it came from?
That's where the term comes from.
Yeah.
It's a play, maybe it's a book. I think there's a movie of it too. I'm saying this out loud because I think that might be a great therapist
movie to
watch.
That could be a good one. Yeah, write that one down because I've heard it described. Apparently, the guy was trying to convince his wife that she was going crazy, and so every day he would turn the gas lamps in their house down a little bit and dim the house, and so she felt like she was seeing the world differently. And he would tell her that she was crazy, that it was always
the movie is called Gaslight, made in 1944.
Yeah, and so that's where the phrase is popularized, where you're made to believe that you're wrong, and the other person is being manipulative and causing you to question yourself instead of questioning them. And that's fine. I feel like the phrase gets way too much thrown around, and it often, it shows up in every argument. Because you're arguing with somebody who doesn't agree with you, you claim they're gaslighting you. And that's just really disingenuous. It weaponizes mental health language, so I become really, problematic with it. But in this case, it kind of does show up. I like to use the phrase Freudian trap. A Freudian trap is a reference to Sigmund Freud, who, as a therapist, he would tell people something about them. He would say, "Oh, you secretly want to make love to your mother." And the person would recoil and be like, "What? In no way, shape, or form do I want that." And he'd say, "See, the fact that you're resisting me right now, the fact that bothers you that I said that, is further evidence that I was right." And so there was no way to disprove his point. That's a Freudian trap. And so, I see that in the letter.
I believe that's just called a dick move.
Yeah.
That's more the colloquial way. I see that in the letter because it's like, hey, you are not a supportive friend, or you were mean to me just now being a hard ass. Oh, well, I'm only a hard ass because of things you say that make me be mean at you, And I don't like that dynamic, right? I've seen that in abusive relationships. I've seen that in abusive spousal relationships. I don't like the dynamic where somebody's incorrectable and is infallible. They can never be wrong. They can never have anything to apologize for. Even if they have misbehaved, the only reason I misbehaved is because you did something that provoked that. And that kind of infallibility complex is a problem. So I guess I just want to empathize with the writer first, that you probably are made to feel crazy in this dynamic. And from what you're describing, you are not. I definitely want to point that out first.
And just to add to that, to touch on the triggers thing, I think that's really important because I hear people say this all the time, as in well, so-and-so triggered me, therefore that's the problem.
Right.
Now, I always like to make it clear that as much as it may be true that we have triggers, that doesn't displace responsibility.
Right.
At the end of the day, you're still responsible. If you've identified a trigger, it doesn't mean that the world has to adjust to your triggers.
Yeah.
It means you have to adjust to take the power away from those triggers. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
I think it's super important. And so the other thing the writer talks about that I think is something I've heard in a lot of people's voices is a lot of times they'll show up to a therapist's office and they'll say, hey, I'm here to figure out what's wrong with me. And you'll say, okay, like, why do you think there's something wrong with you? And they'll say, well, because like this friend tells me that, there's something about me that's off, and I'm not sure if it's the friend or if it's me. And now I'm like doubting myself. And like the writer talks about that. The writer's like, I think if I talk to other friends, they see it from my perspective, but maybe that's because they're biased. Like maybe if they heard from the coworker, they would totally think differently. And, I get it. And so like that self-doubt is fine. But I guess, writer, I want to caution you because a lot of times that can sort of run away and we can start doubting everything. And we start, there's actually a cognitive distortion that goes with this. Cognitive distortions come from cognitive behavioral therapy. It's a wrong perspective that we sometimes have in our lives, and it can really influence a lot of our outcomes, how we think, how we feel, how we behave. And this particular cognitive distortion is something we call personalizing. And personalizing is when somehow it's always my fault. We call it apologizing for the rain. Like somehow I am always at fault in the interaction. And even if I'm upset at you, I start to feel bad that I'm upset at you and somehow I've done something wrong. And that's just, it's a wrong perspective, writer. And if we're catching you doing that, it's probably going to be good to start doing some self-reflection and analyzing that so that way we're not carrying that into every interaction, because that's a bad recipe for your life.
Yeah, I think there's a middle ground. There's a healthy middle ground in there of being able to acknowledge other people's role in something and then also acknowledging your own, but acknowledging your own without taking away other people's. This is hard to explain, but like, as an example, in any kind of interaction that I have with other people, a negative interaction, if I feel like the other person is responsible, like they caused this situation, I will always still at some level be introspective and look at, okay, let's give myself a score. How did I handle that? What did I learn from this situation? Are there things I could have done better? Are there things that I did really well that I'm proud of? Even if I don't feel like it was at all my fault, I'm still looking at how did I handle the situation? Because at the end of the day, that's all I care about. I'm very selfish. At the end of the day, all I care about is what's going to be helpful to me and what is going to benefit me in the long run. Other people's behavior and somebody else acting like an asshole will have no effect on me a year from now. Whereas me being introspective about my interaction and looking at ways I can improve drives me to do better all the time. But I don't do it in a shameful way. So like as an example, last night when I was getting Thai food, when I got in my car and I drove to get the food instead of having it delivered to me.
Grubhub?
Right. Instead of doing that and then bitching about it being cold, I just took initiative and I went and I got the food.
Weird.
Yeah. But as I was driving through the parking lot to get to the Thai restaurant, I was driving between a Starbucks and a bar and grill. I was driving on the road between those two. A lady came across and she crossed the road to get to her car, but her husband was coming across and they met right in my lane.
And then you murdered them, which is why you should have ordered from fucking Grubhub instead of vehicular homicide all over our city. Shame on you.
So they stopped right there and had a conversation in the middle of the road.
Oh, come on.
And they saw me. They looked back, saw me, and continued the conversation. And
that's when Nick murdered them.
That's when he pushed the pedal down.
That's when Nick wanted to.
Justifiable.
If I'm honest, that's when I wanted to. But
Your Honor,
in that
they
moment,
were clearly standing on a hockey rink. What I did was
This was a frozen pond.
That's why
law of the sea.
I always carry a couple hockey sticks that I can plant.
Throw some
later.
pucks on the ground.
Okay, sir, but that doesn't explain the bullets.
Law of the sea.
Right. So, but in that moment, like, I was so furious. I looked at, afterwards, after I calmed down, I looked at, okay, how did I handle that situation? If I were to do it over again, would I do it the same way? Would I do it different? But me doing that is not saying that I was at fault. I still think that's a dick move. That's a dick move. Yeah. Another case example of a dick move right there, right? But so I'm still introspective about it. In this particular situation with the writer, I think that's all you can really do with this is look at, are there things that I could improve on? Yes, no, maybe. But that doesn't mean that if you look at that, like you're at fault for it. That's just self-improvement.
Yeah.
We can always look for self-improvement. The other thing that I would say with this is they're teaching you about who they are, right? We're always teaching people about who we are. And maybe this person's kind of teaching you or training you in a way to say, these are the things that I will discuss with you, and these are the things that I'm not as open to discuss with you. And then you just kind of learn, right? I've got certain friends that if I've got certain problems, I will talk to them specifically, and I won't talk to other people. Or vice versa, if it's... but it's all about learning through those interactions who it has been helpful in helping me get over that and who really hasn't. Like, some people are good at just being empathetic but not really helping with the problem. Other people are really good at helping me with the problem, displaying no empathy whatsoever, right? They're like, well, here's what you got to do. Just do that. And depending on how I'm dealing with the problem, then I kind of pick and choose who I go to.
Yeah, like I'm Nick's friend who gives him advice on intermittent fasting, nutrition, CrossFit, golf.
Naturally.
Yeah, he'll come to me, and I've set him straight and tell him where he's wrong, work on his backswing, But you got to have a friend for everything.
He comes to me when he realizes that his girlfriend is a Nazi.
Yeah.
He says, Jacob, I think my girlfriend might be a Nazi.
What do I do?
And not like the colloquial version of the word Nazi that gets thrown around sometimes now. Like a member of the Reich.
That just reminded me that...
No, hold on. Okay, so real quick.
Yeah.
We're getting off topic, but I have to share this. So Laura gets into these moods where she just wants to learn something, and she's really smart. And like, she'll go and she'll check out like 4 books at a library.
She has terrible taste, but she's really smart.
Yeah.
So what she has discovered is that she feels like she doesn't have a very good grasp of history, specifically during World War I.
Oh, this is working so well.
Great.
Great. So she went.
I couldn't be happier right
She
now.
went to the library and she got a book on World War I, and I'm like really proud of her because like she's identified something, a weakness in her knowledge, and she wants to improve. So
Nick,
she's reading it.
Have you heard of this
after a while,
Holocaust?
That was World War II. But anyway, so she's reading about World War I, and I had that thought of like, what if she reads all about this and then starts to sympathize with Germany? Yeah. Like, she comes to me and is like, they really weren't treated right after
Marshall
World War I.
was that treaty. Yeah.
Can you believe
the Treaty of Versailles was
into...
really restrictive? I mean, who wouldn't want the German people to be restored to their former glory? Right? You see this, right? Speaking of which, for patrons, we need to play. There is a song called I Think You're a Nazi, and it's by this guy, Stephen Lynch. I want to play it for the Patreon. It is glorious.
I know Stephen Lynch. Yeah.
Yes, it is everything that is good in the world, and it totally aligns.
So back to the letter.
Yeah, we'll come back to that. But yeah, to the writer, one last thought on this. I think Nick said something that really nails it. You say in the letter, every time or frequently, this person makes me feel subhuman. If I need to talk about something, they make me feel less than, they put me down, and, when I'm vulnerable. And I guess the thing I want to acknowledge in there is, okay, when somebody tries to teach you who they are, believe them. And, I want you to learn from the science experiment you're running. The data tells you this person is not a safe person to talk to, that they lack the empathy skills, though sometimes they may have a glimmer of them, and that tricks you into believing that, they do have these skills. You now have enough data that there is a good, portion of the time that you feel worse for having talked to that person. If you can acknowledge that, the next part of the question becomes, how do you create a boundary with a coworker who you don't want to spend a lot of time with? And I think that the thing that gets tricky here is if you have to work on projects together, okay, it is what it is. But filtering yourself, okay, you giving somebody your truth is an action you have control over. You're investing in relationship with them. You're choosing to reveal vulnerability to them. If they ask you about it and you choose to reveal that, or if you do it proactively, that is your choice and you're making an investment. I would argue I would want you to probably slow that down. I would want you to offer silence, or I'd want you to keep it just about work and maybe retract in the relationship a little bit. And if the person asks you and is like, hey, I've noticed you haven't really, we haven't talked in a while, like we haven't really dished, like you haven't opened up to me, just kind of, acknowledge that. Like, oh yeah, I guess I've just been busy, not a lot on my mind, and just kind of steer away from it. I don't think you have to have the sit down where like you tell them you hurt my feelings a lot, because apparently they can't receive criticism. They're going to say, oh, I only do that because you trigger me or whatever. And so I think it's time to just step back, from the whole thing. There's no requirement that with your coworker, you have to invest in this level of, relationship. And I think if they're demonstrating to you that they're not going to hold your truth in a way that honors the relationship or feels good, then you need to take that for what it's worth, learn from that, retract and pull back from the relationship. They're showing you that they can't handle your truth, that they're not going to be a safe person to talk to. Therapists spend a lot of time training to be a safe person to talk to. So whenever you have a lemon that is not safe, I want you to just acknowledge that. There's nothing wrong with it. They're not an evil person. They're just ill-equipped. And that's okay for you to just say, okay, well, that person is not the kind of person you should bring this to because they've demonstrated they can't handle it. So that's how I would establish a boundary in the workplace.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thanks for writing in.
Yeah. Great letter.
And thanks for the compliments and
which were wrong.
Acknowledging me as being
fatherly.
Terrible.
That's
they were terrible. Just awful.
Daddy Nick.
Just hurtful. Writer, I yell at you because you trigger me. I need you to understand that. Everything I'm about to say about you is justified. You make me do this. Anyway, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we are discussing window shopping. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
Today's episode is brought to you by Ellie O'Dare, Judy Schneider, Mason Miller, and Leon Kassab. Would you like to sponsor the show and become a therapy producer? Go to patreon.com/therapy. Our second question today, in honor of our therapy producers, sticking with our theme of Forrest Gump, is: what is the one visual that is consistent in the first scene of every transition of Forrest's age?
The feather.
If you'd like to join the therapy producers and make the show possible, go to patreon.com/therapy and sign up. Again, that's patreon.com/therapy.
Is it a feather? I haven't seen the movie in like 10 years, but I feel like there was a feather.
There's definitely the feather at the beginning and end.
Oh, no, I know what it is.
It's something consistent in the first scene of every transition of his age.
I know what it is. It's a song that marks the year. It's a song that was popular that year.
No.
Shit.
It's a visual.
It's a visual something, yeah.
Then it's the feather.
It is not the feather.
I don't think it's the feather. I remember
It's
the feather
Forrest
at the beginning
Gump.
and end.
It's Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks is in every scene in which they mark his age.
Actually, you're still wrong.
I'm still wrong because there's a kid.
Didn't play the kid.
Let's see. I don't know. Running.
Nope.
Great.
If you're playing along at home and you're guessing it's the blue plaid shirt, you're correct.
Oh.
What?
He's always wearing a blue plaid shirt in the first scene of every transition of his age.
Wow.
Yep, when he was a kid and he boarded the bus, blue plaid shirt. The first scene you see is him sitting on the bench, blue plaid shirt.
Huh.
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
So there you go. Hey, and guess what? We're not done with Forrest Gump trivia because I'm continuing on with it into the second show.
Oh, thank God.
Finally giving the people what they've been demanding.
I'm sure that was just a budget thing. I'm sure Spielberg was like, hey, guys, we do not have room in the budget for shirts. So we need to come off as
spend all
witty.
this money on Lieutenant Dan's digital legs. We can't be...
That's right. We blew all of our money on the Vietnam scene, so we're definitely going to need to just reuse the same damn shirt. All right. This is a good question. It's a short one. Window shopping. Hello, Pod Therapy. I was wondering, what is the difference between a person that can go to the mall and not spend money on anything, and then a person you hear that says, I can't go into the mall because I always walk out with something? Is this some type of psychological thing that happens? Just curious, because for myself, I can window shop and simply walk out of the mall or any store with no resentment after I didn't buy anything when I leave. What about you guys? Are you guys able to not buy something when you go to a store, or do you have to? Thanks, Zach.
Okay, that's a good question. I guess I've actually gotten really good at this. it doesn't bother me at all to go someplace and not buy anything. And there's several times where I will go there, see something I want, really think about buying it. But the thing that I always do is I always leave the store, because I always go home, because I always think to myself, if I really want it, I can go back and get it. But I don't do anything impulsively. I see something like, all right, cool. I'm going to give it a couple days. I'm going to think about it. If I decide I want it later, I'll go back and get it. And it doesn't bother me at all.
Who are you? I cannot do any of what you just described. No, I will 100% buy something, and I'll probably buy 2 of it, just in case, because I don't want to come back. And so, if I'm there and I'm like, do I need these batteries? I don't remember, what kind of batteries in it. Screw it. Let's grab a pack of every kind, because at some point I'll use them, and, I have to get the things. Otherwise, why am I there? Going back to a store is one of the most, even not in COVID times. If I am at that place, I'm going to go ahead and err on the side of buying it, because I'd rather be out the money than out the time of ever having to come back to that store because I didn't pull the trigger.
Getting in a car and driving someplace just really annoys you, doesn't it?
Not going to do it. Not going to do it. Oh, my God. So I leased my Subaru almost exactly 1 year ago. We're in the last week of January. I leased my Subaru in February. How many miles do you think I've put on that brand new Subaru over the last 12 months?
More or less than 10?
You want to take a shot?
I would
12
say
months.
12 months. I would say 5,000.
Okay,
that's pretty low, but
that's about
I'll
where I
say
was going to be.
5,000.
I was going to be like 6,000.
Yeah,
2,000.
I was going to guess 500 miles a month.
2,000.
Wow,
isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
There's a couple of gas tanks, man. So, yeah. So when it comes to window shopping, I will always buy something if I'm there. But let me ask you this, though. Okay, what about if you're at a restaurant? If you're at a restaurant or a bar, you're meeting up with somebody, just taking up space for a few minutes or whatever, are you the guy that will just order a water and just chill? Or do you feel like you need to order something even if you don't necessarily want to eat or drink?
I will definitely order something just because I've worked as a waiter. I don't want to sit there, take up a table.
I also don't know what it's like to not want to drink.
You lost Jacob.
What are you even talking about?
There's somebody else there? I just came in on my own. Yeah, I will order something at the restaurant and then send it back. That's how I deal with people.
That sounds about right.
I don't know why I would walk into a store if there wasn't something in that store that I was planning on buying.
That's the other part of this question that's not really asked, but are you the type of person that would just go and window shop?
No.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I'm not going to go walk through a mall. If I go to a mall, it's because there's a store at the mall that I need to go to.
You're just down to business.
Yeah.
I'm there, got to get what I want, and I'm out.
I'm going to go to this store and I'm going to buy pants. And then if I go into that
First
store...
pair I see.
Well, if I go into that store and then don't find a pair of pants that I want to buy, and I leave without pants, I'm upset.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Because I've not achieved what I went in there to do.
Right.
I went in there to buy pants. I'm leaving with no pants.
Yeah.
Don't even have the pants that I walked in with. I'm just Donald ducking around at Jim's shirt.
Very goal-oriented, objective-based shopper.
Yeah.
I'm not that way. I will go and window shop.
Will you just go to a store with no idea that you're going to purchase something?
Do it all the time.
Why?
Golf Galaxy and Guitar Center.
And you just
probably the two that I
meander.
go in all the time. I'll just go in just to see what's new, just to see what they got, look around, spend time, and then I'll go.
I'm just angry even hearing this. No. To get in a car, to drive to a place, to look around at stuff, and then to leave. No. Yeah. If I'm there, I will buy things I do not need. So, if I was randomly with you one day, and we were getting lunch, and you were like, oh, Jim, let's pop into Guitar Center for a second, I'd probably be annoyed that you even said that. But I'd probably be like, all right, whatever. We're here. I like guitars.
I'm going to buy some picks.
Yeah, I'm going to buy something. If I'm there, I'm like, okay, I'm going to buy strings or something, even if I don't need them, because we're here, and at some point in my life, I will need this, and I don't want to have to come back here. there's something about like not having to go back to a place that I recently was. I should have just bought something then. So I get really irritated by that. So I cannot window shop.
Right.
No, I am on Jim's side of I will buy bulk if I have the opportunity to buy bulk. I will buy a lot of stuff.
I do that all the time. Milk, I buy in bulk.
Yeah.
When are you not going to need milk?
Yeah. I just buy 6 gallons a day.
Yeah, and I also don't have to buy cheese.
I'm lactose intolerant.
That's the back half of the bench. It's all
But yeah,
fine.
I mean, food though. I'll go to Sam's Club and buy food for 4 to 6 weeks worth of food. Because I don't want to have to go to the store. I don't want to have to go to the grocery store or whatever if I don't need to.
Right.
Yep.
And then I might have a hankering for something, or we might have an idea of like, oh, let's cook this, and then go, oh, we need this, and then one of us will run to the grocery store, the regular grocery store, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Like we will do it if we need to, but I'd rather not if I don't have to.
So
see, I had gotten into a really good habit when I was exercising regularly of I would buy groceries for 2 days and that's it. I would buy the stuff that I'm going to eat today and the stuff I'm going to eat tomorrow, and then I'm back getting.
Yeah,
and
I
it was a lot
remember
easier.
when you used to tell us that you would do that, and I thought it was dumb then, and I think it's dumb now. Like, why were you
I don't do
doing
it now.
this? Okay, well, you used to do that. You're like, oh, I want my fresh food, and I'm like, dude, come on, man, it's gonna last a week. Like, you'll be okay.
Yeah.
Whatever.
And what we have done this last year during COVID is we have made use of our freezers.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like we buy large amounts of food and just freeze everything.
Yeah.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah, like I get home from the store now and very little goes into the refrigerator. It just all goes straight into the freezer.
Yep. I actually bought one of those.
If I'm like, I'm not
exterior
eating this
garage ones.
today, freezing it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Makes a big difference. But you know what's destroyed my life on this topic of impulse buying? The Amazon Buy Now button has destroyed me. Like, it is, I cannot not hit that button. If I have taken the time to look up an item, like I'm going to Bryan Head next weekend. And so taking the kids, we're going to go play in the snow. We don't own anything for snow. So like, I will look up, snow jacket. First one I see, I will click that, buy now. I do not look at reviews. I do not take the time. And so I just will buy everything that I see almost instantly, forget that I bought it. And then all of a sudden these huge ass boxes show up at my house. And then half the stuff, I don't remember why I bought this, but like I smashed that button. They make it way too easy to pull that trigger, and it has destroyed me.
Now this is interesting because I can and occasionally do just look at Amazon on my the Amazon app on my phone and not buy anything. I'll occasionally just open the Amazon app out of boredom.
Yep.
And like look at the deals or whatever that day and go, fine. And then I close it out and I'm done.
Mm-hmm. I do that.
Yeah. So I guess I do window shop online.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't do that.
That counts.
Yeah.
As soon as
I
I
didn't thought
realize
about that.
need
Yeah. So I guess I do that.
So what's the psychology behind all of this? I mean, I understand the impulsiveness.
Jim doesn't know.
That's right. I was asking you.
Oh, good.
You're the life coach. I mean, I get like the impulsiveness behind it because it's all dopamine, right? It's just the rewards pathway of the brain, how the brain is set up, and purchasing things gives you that rush of dopamine.
I don't get any
good
rush of
to buy
dopamine. That is not. You know how like we say in life, it's a carrot
It's a
or a
drip
stick.
of dopamine.
Like sometimes you're motivated by the reward, sometimes you're motivated by the punishment. For me,
You're
it's the
motivated
second.
by fear.
Yes, it's because I don't want to be irritated that I saw that and just didn't go ahead and get it and then need it later. So then
Which
I just
is
buy
fear
it as
of
soon as I see
loss.
it. Yes,
It's the FOMO, fear of missing out, right?
Yes.
So
Or loss
so
aversion.
yeah, you see something and then you have to buy it because you're like, oh, if I don't buy it, then I won't get it later. Or oh, we need batteries. Well, I may as well buy them out of batteries. Or as you did when the pandemic started, you went there and started buying up medication you didn't need because you were afraid that at some point you would need it.
Yep.
It's all it's all fear based.
Yep. That's the riddle. Solved.
Yeah.
There you go, Ryder. That's what motivates me to hit that buy now button. Other people
But
may
even
find joy
that
in it.
is dopamine based though. You realize that, right?
Whatever.
'Cause
everything's
it's
dopamine.
Yeah, I mean it's the sensation of knowing that you're safe is what you get out of it.
Okay.
It's
right.
you have a fear and you've quenched that fear. That fear is, you've extinguished it. The extinguishing of a fear is motivating.
Yes.
It's actually what we'd refer to as there's positive and negative punishment. And positive and negative doesn't mean good, bad. It means adding or subtracting. So positive reinforcement is adding something good to reinforce a behavior. Negative reinforcement is removing something negative to reinforce a behavior. And it goes the same for positive and negative punishment.
Okay. I feel like that was a little
So in this case, it would be a negative reinforcer, right? So the fear is being removed, which reinforces the behavior.
Okay. There you go, writer. That's why it is. It's brought to you by Amazon. Make sure that you type in Pod Therapy when you're checking out. We got a interesting reply letter that I am in love with, and I cannot wait to read it. Hey guys, I'm just listening to the latest episode, and in the Patreon pre-show, Jim mentioned a common saying of his that involved making unfounded leaps in logic. Quote, if you're in the USA and you see a horse-shaped animal next to the road, you should assume it's a horse and not a zebra, end quote. I am a truck driver by profession. Just before the start of the pandemic, I got a local gig, so I often drive the same roads over and over, sometimes multiple times in a day. Well, one day I had to drive to a city called Gilroy, which is between Salinas and San Jose, California,
Gilroy.
on Highway 101. I was scheduled to make several trips that day, and on the way back from the first trip, I was pulled into a weigh station. The weight police let me leave without hassle, and as I pulled back onto the freeway, I saw a blur of black, white, and hooves in a small pasture to the right on the ramp. Horse, right? Yeah. Obviously a horse. Maybe a skinny cow. This is California, after all. 2 hours later, I get pulled into the same weigh station yet again, and pulling back onto the highway, I look at the field, and sure enough, standing in a completely different spot, out in the open right next to the fence this time, black mane streaming dramatically in the breeze, is a motherfucking zebra. I still didn't entirely believe I had just seen a zebra on the side of the road in California, but after driving past it another half dozen times that day, and several times since, I can safely submit this correction to your aphorism. If you live in America, when you see a horse-shaped animal, think horse, not zebra, unless you're driving north on the 101 near San Martin, California, then it's a zebra. Thanks, Anonymous.
That is
that
wonderful.
is the strangest email that has ever been read on this show.
That's glorious.
But important
so good.
because it brings up a good point.
That Jim was wrong.
Jim was wrong.
Yeah.
And we need
That's the
to,
point.
everybody needs to understand that when they're listening to the show.
Yeah.
Because he comes off like he knows what he's talking
That's
about.
right.
He doesn't. He does not.
He says it very confidently.
There is even a chapter in my book, which you can read at dadvicebook.com, that is all about the horses and zebras thing. And apparently,
You have
I'm
an
going to have to
electronic
add a
version
note.
of it on dadvicebook.com?
dadvicebook.com. That's
We
the
can
place
just
to
read it
find
right
the
there on
book.
the website.
Or just if you don't want to buy it, just let me know. I'll just screenshot a picture of it and send it to you.
That's right.
Then you don't have to spend any money.
We should absolutely just do a website
Just
with
make it-
screenshots of all of his books.
I could photocopy every
Yes.
page and put it up as a PDF.
Oh, I like this idea a lot.
Just so people don't have to spend the $9.99. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Great letter, Anonymous. That was wonderful. We do want to thank all of our patrons. This is the first show of February that you're hearing now. And so this is whenever we say thank you to all of our theropods, therodactyls, theroproducers, and acknowledge any newbies who have joined the pack. But definitely want to start by acknowledging our new therapals. We've got Brandon Loonsberry and Ahmed Raza. Thanks for joining the party at patreon.com/therapy.
And we have a new theropod. Welcome, Sundog, our new theropod.
Welcome to the party.
And because it's the first of the month, we are going to thank all of our theropods. So thank you, Adam Petanuzzo, Adam Rubiznik, Angela Ellis, Brad Kefauver, Brooks Lyle, Chelsea Lamb, Chelsea Saracen, Corey Owens, Craig Little, David Sorensen, Don Dorr, Elliot Lamb, Felicia Butler, Frozen Cusser, Gavin Bristow, Ian Soto, Ian Whitefall, I Have the Knack, James K., Jeffrey Ackerman, Jessica Cyphers, Jim Hunter, Joseph Pangrazio, Carrie Tierhark, my sister, Kate Keller, Katie Chawalski, Laura Dotson, Lauren Izzo, Lori Elsroth, Linda Brandmeier, Mats Lindgren, Matthew Neer, Richard Bruins, Rocco, Sally Boop Scoop, Scoopaholic, Scoopatron, Scoopator Ascending, Scoopstronaut, Scoopy Jess, Scott Ashlock, Stacy Coleman, Stacy Westerlin, Sundog, Take It EV Podcast, That Josh Guy, Three Scoops a Lady, Todd Canfield, and Tracy Rapoglo, Batmom.
AKA Batmom. We also want to thank our pterodactyls, the gaggle of greatness that soars through the skies in their benevolent...
Oh, and we have a new one.
And we have a new one in their benevolent desire to spread mental health wherever they go. Welcome to the flock, Tess Miller, our newest pterodactyl. And we want to thank all of our pterodactyls, including Andrea Anderson, Brian Lehman, David Pollock, Fred Bashara Jr., Ice Blue Scoop, Lauren, Lindsay Bashara, Rachel Dustow, Robert Paulson, Ryan Stewart, Slurpee Kaye, motherfucker, Tess Miller, and Cindy Ash.
And we especially want to thank our bosses, the Saccharin 16, the Mysterious and Shrouded Illuminati members of our fan club, the Theraproducers. Thank you, Smitty Scoop, Jake Schneider, Robert Brownie Jr. Mint, Kayla Lansbury, Ellie O'Dare, Judy Schneider, Nathan's Hot Dog Scoop, Dr. Ben Don, Crazy Manana Scoop, Mason Miller, Scott Jameson, Carolyn Albert, Leon Kassab, Dan Martin, Reverend Scoop Kevin, Malaya, and Scott Brady.
If you'd like to hear this episode uncut and unedited and enjoy our spontaneous side projects like the interviews and Angry Jim Yells at the New York Times and the movie night, you can go to patreon.com/therapy, and thank you for supporting mental health. That's all the time that we've got for this week's session. We want to thank our landlords, the Ice Cream Social Podcast, and thanks to those of you who contributed to our show today. We really appreciate it. Remember, pod therapy isn't something you should keep all to yourself. Share this episode with someone who needs it by opening the episode's description in your podcast app and copying and pasting the link provided into your social media. Don't forget, you can find us at facebook.com/podtherapy, on Twitter at PodTherapyGuys, and at patreon.com/therapy.
You want to submit a question to the show? Ask anonymously at podtherapy.net or email us at podtherapyguys@gmail.com. I'm Nick Tangeman.
I'm secretly a zebra.
Thanks, and we'll see you for your appointment next week.
Bow, bow, bow. Can you believe it? A freaking zebra on the side of the road in California. I would not be surprised if I saw that in like Pahrump. Then it would make sense. But not off the
Definitely seems Pahrump-y.
I'm not surprised seeing anything in Pahrump.
That's true.
I don't think there's any. I'm trying to think if there's anything that I could see or hear about in Pahrump that would surprise me.
Yeah. I can't think of anything.
Especially animal related.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Animal related in anything.
Yeah.
Like a pride of lions has been spotted in Pahrump.
Oh, that's a thing. Fine. That's absolutely a thing. Remember in Tiger King, that guy who like screwed over the Tiger King and took all he has a thing in Pahrump. That's where he keeps them.
Oh, I'm thinking like a pride of wild lions.